And there were so many different means of making it work. There was no way that it wasn't going to work. If option A didn't work, then option Q is going to work. And if option Q isn't going to work, then W is going to work. And if not, then we're going into Roman numerals.
Welcome to What Came After. I'm your host, Manya Marcus. On What Came After, we'll take a look at the many ways people's lives have changed since the brutal massacre in Israel on October 7th, 2023. We'll be speaking to people around the world to learn how this profound moment in Jewish and global history continues to shift, shape, and change them. To learn more, please visit us at whatcameafter.com. Hi, this is Manya Marcus. When I first met with our guest, Dekkel Bachar, at the end of 2025, we talked about Shesek, an initiative of the Israel ParaSport Center. Shesek was designed to help rebuild the lives of Israelis who were impacted by war. Nearly 3 years later, many in Israel are still grappling with its impact. Tens of thousands, and likely many more, are struggling with PTSD. Since this recording, I've learned that the Israel ParaSport Center has been working even harder to provide essential support for those who are struggling with post-trauma. The center was recently selected as one of only 8 organizations to lead a national rehabilitation initiative, expanding its programming to target the invisible wounds of war. Program details will be on their website soon, and you can support their work at israelparasport.org. It is December 1st, 2025, and I'm really honored to be sitting here with Dekkel Bachar. Dekkel, we are here in Ramat, Israel, and we are somewhere very special. I'm hoping that you can tell us who you are, where you're from, where we are, and what it is that you do here.
Hi, I'm Dekkel Bachar. I am 28 years old. I made Aliyah to Israel about 6 years ago now, and we are at the Israel ParaSport Center where I work. And yeah, it is a really special place. As I'm sure when you walked in, you sort of felt the shoot through your body of magic. That's the only way that I can kind of describe what you feel when you walk in, but it's a place of inspiration and hope and power to literally anybody. It doesn't matter ability, background, but it really is a place of power to anybody that walks in. The Israel ParaSport Center is a center that divides into 3 branches, sort of. The first being Paralympic powerhouse to individuals with disabilities to train to become Paralympic athletes, from wheelchair rugby to wheelchair tennis to wheelchair basketball, bocce athletes that were in the Paralympics in Paris, really almost anything under the sun.
The Paralympics in Paris became kind of a famous moment in Israeli history. Can you remind us why that was?
Well, we had goalball athletes that won silver medals. We had a fantastic run in the wheelchair tennis realm. We had a fantastic run in bocce because of what was going on in the war. So many people became disabled. I think we sort of had momentum there and more awareness in the disability world.
If I'm remembering correctly, there was an athlete who sang the Israeli national anthem, Hatzikfa, with a really intense passion. It was very moving to see his face. Can you share anything about who he was, what sport that was?
That was a Paralympic swimmer. He's under the Elan umbrella, so he's in the North in the Haifa branch. He's a very moving athlete.
Okay, so I cut you off. You were telling me about the 3 sort of divisions of the center.
Yeah, so we have Paralympic athletes that train here and they go internationally to compete. We have the rehabilitation realm where we have hydrotherapy, sport therapy, athletic therapy, rehabilitation through Pilates, all the rehabilitations. We have physiotherapy here as well. And then we have a community center where people come to the pool, they come to the gym, like any other community center. And there really is a community built here where people, after they go to the gym, work out a couple hours, swim, and then they go have a coffee together and hang out for the morning or the afternoon. We really have a community built around the facilities here and the atmosphere here as well.
It was really interesting, coming to the front of the building and seeing people coming in with children and saying they're going to the pool. And of course, I had no idea how to explain where I was going, but it is a feeling that lots and lots of types of people are coming in and out of these doors.
The Israel ParaSport Center is unique because although it has been designed to treat individuals with disabilities in pretty much every realm, from cerebral palsy to amputations to spinal cord injuries to traumatic brain injuries, really anything under the sun. Anybody's welcome here. They're able-bodied people. There are people from the community that come because the facilities are so incredible. It's really a welcoming home to anyone that wants to call it that. Anyone that comes through these doors really feels that energy, that they're welcome here and they have a place, which is very unique. And you can maybe speak for that doesn't matter who you are. You just walk in and you feel some sort of something special.
Yeah, it was not what I was expecting.
Yeah.
Exactly, because I really was picturing that this was only a place for people who have physical limitations, and all kinds of people were coming in and out of the gate.
Yeah, another really unique thing about this place is because it's the ParaSport Center, a lot of people expect a rehab center or a hospital-like setting, which is a little bit gloomy, or that's kind of, you associate rehab or hospitals to gray and sort of a little bit eerie. And whenever people come, especially people that I've treated from the war, they were very hesitant to come here because of the eerie, and they don't want another hospital. They don't want another treatment facility. And the second they come here, it's colorful and it's like block colors and the walls are murals and it's happy. And all of a sudden you're like, wow, this isn't another rehab. This isn't another hospital that I'm at. This isn't another place that I have to feel like a patient at. It's really community, and people enjoy being here.
That's wonderful. So I want to ask you two questions, and they commingle. The first is, what would you have said if I asked you to introduce yourself on October 6th, 2023? Tell me who that person was. And also to explain maybe what this program was pre-October 7th and how I'm imagining it must have grown.
Wow, I can tell you I was a completely different person, different being, different mindset, different everything on October 6th. The program that we're talking about didn't exist. It started from January 1st, 2024 was the birth of Shesek, which is, I think, what we're talking about. Shesek is an acronym for Rehabilitation, Sports, and Community. That was born as the response to the war, the activation for anybody and everybody who needed rehabilitation post October 7th.
But the building existed.
The building
there were
existed
programs.
65 years strong. The facilities or the organization initially, or 65 years ago, started as a treatment center for individuals with polio syndrome. And then it expanded to kids with cerebral palsy, Paralympic training grounds, like I said, so on and so forth. And then before October 7th, I'm going back to your question, I was an athletic therapist and a hydrotherapist, which is pretty much physio in the water, or some sort of physio in the water. And I was also in charge of the youth rehabilitation in the fitness center. And then October 7th happened, and it was time for everyone to get back on their feet. I went back to Toronto for a little bit, and then something in me sort of said, I have the means and the knowledge and the skills and expertise to do something. I know I wasn't a soldier. I not on the front lines, but whatever had happened on October 7th, I would be able to respond and treat the people that needed it. So I sort of repacked my bag, and I call it my second Aliyah. I came back to Israel, and 2 days later, Boaz Kramer, the CEO, called me into his office and explained the war response program. And it initially started as a seed of an idea to treat people that had lost their homes and their treatment facilities, the rehabilitation centers in the moshavs and the kibbutzim that were evacuated. And due to their evacuation, they had no means for physio or rehab. Or the idea was to create remote or satellite rehabilitation centers where they have been relocated to. That was the initial idea.
To take displaced people from essentially the OTEF, the Gaza envelope,
And the north.
And the north, and make sure that they had
a response to the lack thereof rehabilitation options.
Okay.
That was the initial idea. And I sort of looked at it and I'm like, okay, like, who do you want me to treat? Because that was
your role.
That was my role. Yeah.
You did.
And he looked at me and he goes, no, I want you to run it. And I looked at it and I was like, oh, okay. So yeah, that's how Shesek was born. And very, very soon after, I saw that there was a lot more that needed to be done. There was people that were injured, and there were the Nova survivors that needed a response that had also been injured, but not physically. There were the ones that had also been injured and not physically and not physically. And there's so many people that needed a physical intervention that the project very quickly expanded. And I realized that the role that I had been given was more than a job. It was a shlichut.
Like a calling?
A calling, yeah.
So you were in Israel on October 7th.
Yes.
And you went back. Were you raised in Toronto?
Yeah, born and raised. I made Aliyah 6 years ago.
Yes, right. Okay. So you went back to your previous home, Toronto. Yeah. And that was a response to the war, to the trauma, to the fear here?
My family wanted to see me and make sure that I was okay. And so I went. And then I needed to come back.
So you came back. A lot has been made of how rapid the civilian response was to October 7th. I mean, we have an episode called People Were Cooking on the Streets, like, what can you say about sort of what you saw as the civilian response to the incredible level of need and trauma, and also what it felt like to have the calling and then the responsibility to build this program from the ground, having never done it before? How did you figure it out?
So I'm lucky that my undergrad is in sport management and my master's degree is in science and adapted physical activity. So it kind of just like exactly spearheaded into what was needed. And I'm assuming that's why I was given the position and trusted with such an important position. From having the theoretical knowledge to being able to implement something at the scale and at the intensity and at the
magnitude
of it. Yeah, we had, at the peak of it, we had 40 remote locations with over 250 people being treated. And that's not including the people being treated here and in Haifa and the Beersheba location. It was a very large scale project that required a lot of hours and focus, and making sure that I was on top of it and hiring the right people to make sure that I knew that every location was being taken care of and there wasn't someone being missed, and everyone was getting to the right facilities on time, and there was equipment being purchased because it's all remote and my trainers had the right equipment. And I had to go to the north a few times a week. And when there were rockets, I had to figure out how to create a remote program because I wasn't going to let my trainers drive through rocket attacks in the north. And then, okay, so this week we're going online and some people can't figure out the Zoom. So how are we going to do that? And it was a lot of troubleshooting as you go and figuring out how to do that properly. And then there were people that a trainer can't get to. So we're going to get them straps and teach them how to use the straps. And then they worked with the trainer remotely. And they checked in with their trainer. And there were so many different means of making it work. There was no way that it wasn't going to work. If option A didn't work, then option Q is going to work. And if option Q isn't going to work, then W is going to work. And if not, then we're going into Roman numerals. Then
Right. Right. People talk a lot about just the sheer intensity of the beginning of the war. And I'm kind of amazed at how people were able to adapt and focus. I think if I was sort of thrust into a war zone and that, well, it wasn't a war zone, but that level of collective trauma might be hard for me to figure out how to allocate budget and get the right number of straps and, deal with rocket fire and make sure that programs are, remote.
Yeah. I would say it's the opposite. I think that this position or this project was a gift because I don't think I'd be able to get through the war any other way. I think it gave me a purpose. And if I was in Canada, I would feel helpless because I wasn't able to do anything. And I would just be sitting there twiddling my thumbs being like, I need to do something. For example, when I was in Canada for a few weeks, within those weeks, I raised 10,000 shekels doing a Pilates fundraiser for Zaka because I needed to do something. I couldn't just sit and watch what was going on. I couldn't. So coming back to Israel and being given an opportunity to actually do something meaningful with my time and it being my job. My intention to come back to Israel was, okay, I'm going to work full time. And if I need to, I'm going to volunteer another 40 hours a week to do something and feel like my time is being used in a meaningful way and an impactful way. I'm lucky enough that my job allowed me to feel useful and be a part of the give back. I'm honored to be a part of that.
Yeah, I can imagine. I mean, it's such a incredibly gives you so much purpose and meaning to be here. If you're able to talk about it, can you sort of explain at the beginning of the war how the funds came together and just how the finances work to operate this place?
So the first year of the project, we won a bid from the Social Security funds.
That's a government organization, is that right?
Yeah, it was a grant. Basically, over 600 organizations put in bids for helping a war effort.
Wow.
And 10% received funds around that. After the first year, it all came from donations and in-house funding. There were still a lot of people that needed a response. There are still people receiving services that are under the project, and that's completely funded by us.
So my friend that connected us, her name is Shayna Sugar. She lives with me right outside Chicago, but I think that she's involved in the fundraising process for you guys. It sounds like it takes an international effort to keep this place well greased in the way that it needs to be. Is that right?
Oh, yeah. I mean, the project that I was running for the war is just one of many, many projects and initiatives that we do on a daily basis, not yearly basis, not emergency basis. We have kids programs running daily. We have adults rehabilitation programs running. We have hydrotherapies every day for people in need. We have thousands of people that come in, whether it's rehabilitation services, whether it's Paralympic athletes that are training here and need to be sent abroad. It's a lifeline for many, many, many people because of the hydrotherapy pool that's teaching them how to walk again, or because the sport that they're learning how to play is putting a smile on their face and they didn't think they would smile after an injury, or they didn't know that they could even do a certain sport, or just the fact that we have a completely accessible gym and going to the gym means a lot. And a lot of people don't realize that that can be taken for granted. Going to the gym, going to the pool. These are things that people don't realize it's a big deal.
I think over the course of the war, it was really agonizing to sort of hear the names of fallen soldiers day after day, especially at the peak of the war. But what I think a lot of people lost sight of is how many more injuries there were on top of the fatalities. This is a place that feels hopeful and communal and familial, but there's a lot of pain and grief that people are working through here. Can you talk about what it's like to work with people who kind of go from have full capabilities in their body to kind of overnight things have changed for them and how you manage the emotional in addition to physical components of that?
I get that question a lot. I'm not going to speak for someone's injury. I can't speak for someone.
Mm-hmm.
I get that question more on the sense of how do I keep hopeful when I see injuries like that on a daily basis. This war is our reality. It happened. We can't change what happened, but we can do something with it and we can use this facility as a sense of hope. And okay, someone's been injured. They've gone through what they've gone through, but we can build a community like the Nova basketball team that plays here. They really do enjoy their time when they're here. They've built a family here, and the people that have a spinal cord injury and they find meaning and hope in the sport that they play, or someone who didn't think that she can play tennis and all of a sudden she's learning with one of the best coaches like in the world or in Israel. It's a place of hope and encouragement despite.
That's a really beautiful way to put it. Are there people who are post-injury and coming back to a sport that they previously played, or is it mostly people learning new skills in sports?
It's both.
And what's the gender breakdown? I kind of had this assumption that it's mostly men, but I'm not sure that that's true.
No, it's men and women. Sometimes people just want to come to the gym, and you see men and women at the gym. There's reformer Pilates, which is also rehabilitative, or group sessions, which is also men and women. The hydrotherapy pool, which is also men and women. It's really, I don't have the statistic, but it's a pretty even split.
For you, what has been the hardest thing about doing this work since the beginning of the war?
The second I started this project, my goal was to help as many people as humanly possible. And that was my motto. And the hardest thing was not getting to as many people as humanly possible. And I always set myself a goal. If I got to 50 people, I wanted to get to 100 people. And if I got to 100 people, I wanted to get to 150 people. And so like at 250 people, and I was like, I need to get to 300. And I didn't get to 300. So I think the fact that maybe I'm just hard on myself, but I would have liked to have gotten to many, many, many more people that would enjoy the services that we can provide.
You know, it's interesting. So I mentioned to you before we started talking that in my kind of other life, I'm a therapist, and there's a term for that. It's called moral injury, where you know that you have the skills to reach so many more people, and affects doctors and soldiers and all kinds of different kind of healers and helpers. And to see that the skill you have could reach so many more, and to know that for whatever reason you're not able to at this point, it can be really hard.
Yeah, like it really affects me that I know I can. And it was really finding a needle in a haystack, especially with the evacuees. I had to go hotel to hotel, door to door, searching for the people that needed the services because the country was a mess. No one knew where anybody was, where the people with the disabilities that needed the services were. I went hotel to hotel handing out flyers looking for people that could benefit from the services.
Wow. And there were tens of thousands of displaced people.
Probably hundreds of thousands at some point. Even with that in mind, and with the numbers that I got to, and with the partnerships that I made with the city of Kiryat Shmona, which it was a successful project, but I could have gotten to more people. I don't know how, but I could have, and I should have, and it's okay.
I mean, do you feel like this is a bit of survivor's guilt that you're describing?
In what sense?
Like, you know, that you are okay, right? And it's so hard to be okay when people aren't okay, and you can't always help them in the way that you want.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I think I've always been someone that wants to give and wants to help, especially in a situation that I know that I can give and I can help. And I came back to Israel to give and to help. I was given the opportunity to dedicate all of my time to that.
I mean, it is remarkable because a lot of people described having to split time between the necessity of work and the joy and the meaning of volunteering, and the fact that you could sort of fuse them.
I profusely thanked Boaz, I think on a daily basis, for the position that I was given and the honor. I really think the position that I was given is an honor. I said it before, and it really is part of what helped me survive this war. In general, the reason that I chose this career path. I love what I do, and there's such a need for it, especially post October 7th. And even now, we're a country that's, now that not everybody's home, but the live hostages that they came home, where we're finally starting to understand the post-trauma.
As opposed to the ongoing, endless trauma.
It wasn't even ongoing trauma. It was survival. We were surviving, and we weren't even recognizing the Iran attack. It was 2 weeks of bombardment, and then it stopped and everyone went back to work.
I was thinking about that, because I have friends who live in Ramat Gan, but I've always met them in Tel Aviv. And Ramat Gan is a place that was hit very hard by the 12-day war. Was the center able to open at all during that point?
No, everything was closed. The entire country was closed. After over 2 years of survival mode, everyone kind of can take a breath and understand what the impact of that is on themselves, on the country, on their loved ones, and start to heal. And that's going to take a really, really long time. I mean, I'm not a therapist, but I think physical activity and sports and what we do here will, and there are studies that prove it, have a massive, massive impact on recovery.
I think the big gap in my training, because I trained so long ago, is not in fully understanding the way that the body needs to come into treatment. And, I'm maybe a little over focused on conversation in the mind, which is good for the podcast, but not necessarily so advantageous for people's recovery. So it's nice to see the recognition that physicality has, not just in recovery for people who have physical disabilities, but also it sounds like you do work with people who have emotional and invisible disabilities now.
Yeah, I mean, like I mentioned, the Nova basketball team, they come here once a week and they just train, and you see the impact that being a part of a team and playing basketball, which is something they love to do, and blasting music and shooting a ball around, you can just see the impact that it has.
Do they blast trance?
They do, yeah.
I find that so... I spoke to a Nova survivor 2 weeks ago and I said, didn't this ruin trance for you? He said, oh,
absolutely not.
Absolutely not. Do you like trance?
Yeah, it's fun.
It's a very Israeli thing to be so into trance.
It is a very Israeli thing. I think I got into, I mean, it's not something I'm going to listen to like on a daily basis, or it's a mood thing. I'm not,
but it sits at your, it's one of your go-tos.
It's definitely there. But yeah, they definitely enjoy listening to their music, playing their sport. And
I just really want to amplify that, because I think that, in my field, we tend to think that something that's a trigger, you know what I mean? You stay away from it. If trance was playing right before the terrorists started to invade, you don't go back to it. But it really feels like a measure of resilience in this country that,
100%.
It's just reclaimed. It's still there for joy, and nothing's going to ruin that.
Yeah.
So let me ask you, when you went back to Canada after October 7th, did you know for sure that you were going to come back, or was there a question mark?
That's a hard question. I left all my stuff here. I have a dog. My house was still here. I was definitely my family was talking to me about, okay, we'll move your stuff. I have a friend in Canada who offered me a job. I was also helping her teach Pilates there. I could have easily started a life there. Like, not a problem.
So you weren't sure?
Yeah.
And the work really drew you back, or just the need to be part of the recovery?
The need to be a part of the recovery. I mean, like I said, my position here at that point was like an athletic therapist and hydrotherapist. And in my head, it was, okay, we're going to get people that were injured on the 7th. We're going to get maybe soldiers. The Israel ParaSport Center is sort of a parallel to Bet Lochem, but for civilians.
What is that?
Bet Lochem is the center for injured soldiers.
Okay, so this is like an IDF specific.
Bet Lochem is an IDF specific. So this is parallel to that, but for civilians.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, so I was aware that we would likely get a pretty high volume of people that were injured on the 7th. And then if the Bet Lochem would be full, we might get the overflow of soldiers as well.
Has that happened?
We did get a few soldiers, yes. We have quite a few.
Overflow from...
And also from the project, I have some soldiers that came in through Shesek. But like, my thought in Canada was, I'm part of the staff team. I have a position here. I have what to do. I need to be there to do what I'm trained to do, what I know to do. I'm not on the front line. I'm not in Gaza. I'm not in Lebanon. I'm not in Syria. But I am going to be absorbing the backlash of whatever is going on post. I need to be there.
Do you still do individual treatment? We're in your office and you have equipment here to be able to do the work that you do.
I do. I still manage the kids' youth rehab, and I have a couple of private sessions. So I kind of split my time between doing private sessions and administrative work.
Do you feel like continuing to do some of the direct service stuff keeps you grounded, or is it your passion? How do you feel about the difference between the two of them?
I like having different hats. In the morning, I can work on the computer and sort of plan, and I enjoy the fact that it's dynamic. And then I can come to the gym and play and coming up with different plans and having a student learning through what I'm showing them, and maybe doing this and brainstorming and having a staff team working together and let's do this, and maybe let's do these games, and then going to an adult program and having a group of 3 people in a wheelchair and 2 people with walkers and 1 person standing independently, and then trying to figure out how to create a program for that one group. It's really cool way of critical thinking that I really enjoy. And I think it's fun.
One of the things that I've learned, there's even a song about this, Israelis being superheroes. You look like a hairdresser or a lawyer, you kind of lift your civilian clothes off and there's something else that you do. I mean, it's often in the context of being a soldier, but I do think it's a very Israeli thing to have to wear many hats.
Yeah.
So I think it's good that this is home and that you're home.
Thank you.
This has been a really important conversation. I hope that people will look you guys up and really understand that to keep these operations running, you guys rely on donations. So we will put the website in the show notes. And thank you so much for spending the time.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please rate, review, and subscribe to What Came After wherever you get your podcasts. You can also find us online at whatcameafter.com.